Okay, this is a strange one. As I'm sure you've seen, this is an episode about the England versus New Zealand game that was due to take place on the 12th of November 2020. However, on the 14th of October, New Zealand announced that they couldn't fulfil the fixture due to travel and player availability complications caused by COVID-19. Now, they'd previously pulled out the planned fixture they had against Belgium, due to be played on the 9th of October. It's a shame, and despite my initial reservations about the fixture, as you'll hear in the episode, I began to learn more about it, and I thought it had the potential to be an interesting game for both sides. So I've decided to continue with releasing it after the research I'd done and the people I'd spoken with. Obviously, some of it will still be relevant, and some now not so. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy it.
This is Gareth Southgate, and this is the Three Lions podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Three Lions podcast. My name's Russell Osborne, and this, as you well know, is an independent England football supporters podcast. Now, who knew that back when the FA announced England would be playing New Zealand at Wembley on Thursday the 12th of November, that this would materialise into an episode in itself? If I'm honest, as I think I've previously mentioned, I'm not quite sure of the reasons behind the fixture, and I think that the Kiwis will value it more than we do. But the more research I'd done about this fixture, the more I thought, I can't waste all this knowledge. So I'm going to pass it on to you for the next 35 minutes with stats and memories from that time in 1991. It was a year after Italia 90, of course. Bobby Robson was now in charge at Dutch side PSV Eindhoven, and Graham Taylor was at the helm now, after being appointed after England returned from Italy. With qualification for Euro 92 a priority, victories over Poland and Turkey and 2 draws against the Republic of Ireland in the bag, an end-of-season trip to the other side of the world had been scheduled. England would play 2 games against New Zealand as part of their centenary anniversary, and these were sandwiched between games against Australia and Malaysia, for which probably the whole tour is probably remembered the most, where Gary Lineker scored all 4 in a 4-2 win against Malaysia. Now, this would be the first time the senior team had set foot in New Zealand, a country over 11,000 miles away from home. Taylor selected a squad for that tour that comprised of the following players: 2 goalkeepers, Chris Woods of Glasgow Rangers and Tony Coton of Manchester City, who appears to be the only player on the tour who didn't get any game time. Paul Parker of QPR, Gary Charles and Stuart Pearce of Nottingham Forest, David Batty of Leeds, Des Walker of Forest, Mark Wright, Derby, Earl Barrett, Oldham Athletic, David Platt, Aston Villa, Jeff Thomas, Crystal Palace, Dennis Wise of Chelsea, Nigel Clough, another one from Nottingham Forest, Gary Lineker from Tottenham was the captain, Mark Walters from Glasgow Rangers, Brian Dean, Sheffield United, John Solarco of Crystal Palace, Ian Wright of Crystal Palace, and David Hurst of Sheffield Wednesday. In fact, Dave Petraska wrote in the official programme that this England squad looks awesome. So it meant that only 6 players from the Italia 90 squad would go on this tour. Chris Woods, Stuart Pearce, Des Walker, Mark Wright, David Platt and Gary Lineker. The first game of the tour saw them beat Australia in Sydney on the 1st of June by 1-0. First half own goal too. They then moved on to New Zealand, a country, like Australia, more known for its rugby and cricket. In fact, New Zealand football only turned professional in 1999. Back in 1991, the players were at their day jobs the week before playing England and then went back the week after. Currently, football-wise, New Zealand has a national league, as they did back then, And it was only the 2005-06 season, when the Australian A-League formed, that the New Zealand Knights joined, although they disbanded in 2007 to be replaced by the Wellington Phoenix, who have finished no higher than third in their 13 years in the league. Now, on the international stage, New Zealand, they will have qualified for 2 World Cups. In Spain, 82, where they were drawn against Brazil, Scotland and USSR, unsurprisingly, where they lost all 3 games. And they returned in 2010 in South Africa, where instead of losing all their games, they drew them all. 1-1 against Slovakia and Italy, and 0-0 against Paraguay. But it wasn't enough for them to progress. Anyway, back to 1991. As I mentioned, it was part of New Zealand's FA's centenary celebrations, and 2 matches were scheduled. The first one was England's 674th international match, played on Monday the 3rd of June. This at Mount Smart Stadium in Auckland, which appears to still be there to this day, although has clearly gone under a bit of reconstruction. In a fairly mediocre game, it was only settled in the last minute as captain Gary Lineker poked past the keeper for his 41st international goal. And I've been fortunate enough to find an England fan who was at that very game. I'd like to welcome to the Three Lions podcast, Barnsley, an England fan, David Ward. Hi, David.
Hello there.
Are you well?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Apart from the obvious of the current year, and
You've been an England fan for quite some time, am I right in saying?
I have. I can remember my first England game was an evening match at the old Wembley against Albania. If I remember right, I think it's the one where Gaza came on and scored. It was a qualifier, a bloody miserable night in November or October. That would have been like late 80s.
Okay, so just sort of prior to the game and the event that we're going to talk about now, because obviously England have got this friendly against New Zealand coming up, which, to be honest, when I heard about it, I thought it's a bit of a strange one, bit of a random one. And then when I looked back into it, I thought, do you know what? We haven't played these too often before. Twice, it appears. And you actually went to one of them, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I moved out to New Zealand in 1990, end of 1990. Me and my missus went out there, live in Auckland. And I remember 91 was like a centenary year or a bicentenary year or something. There were all sorts of events for New Zealand happening at the time. And the England cricket team had been out I went to see them at Eden Park in Auckland in the sort of January or February of 91. And then it came up that the England were coming out, that the football team was coming out. So, yeah, it's a lot of excitement.
And what did your wife say to that? Or was she a follower as well?
To be fair, she wasn't really, not really a follower, but she did come along to the cricket and the football with me. Yeah. It was at the game I went to was the first game against obviously New Zealand. It was like an old athletics track or stadium called Mount Smart, which was not far away from where we were living at the time. And it's because I was hoping it was going to be at Eden Park, which is the big cricket and rugby venue, but it wasn't. And yeah, it was kind of a bit strange seeing this team that had been in the World Cup semi-finals a year before playing at some old athletics track. It was a bit bizarre.
Yeah. So, I mean, did you go out to the World Cup?
No, I didn't. No.
So you went to Auckland. They're not exactly known, or especially back then, for being a football, I don't want to say football friendly, but a football mad country. Are they? They're more rugby, cricket. So what was sort of the expectation like? Do you remember?
They are, but they've got a good sort of non-league, a bit more than a Sunday league set up out there. I used to play for a company for a club called Howick, and we used to play, most weekends, and it was quite, a good community really. It's sort of a bit like you'd have a beer afterwards and a bite to eat with the opposition, and that kind of thing. So. Yeah, it was. There was a lot of excitement amongst a lot of expats, obviously living out there, but a lot of Kiwis as well. Everyone was really up for the England game. Yeah.
So I was looking down the team sheet for it, and this particular game, there was 3 players who got their first cap here. I'm going to test you, unless you've already looked at this. Do you remember those 3 players?
Kind of, yeah. And in fact, before I say who they are, what I had in my mind that David Hirst and Shearer were both in the squad, but I'm not sure if Shearer was in the squad. But I remember it was at the time when they were both sort of vying to be the next big centre forward sort of thing. And I don't remember Hirst playing in the Auckland game, but I remember him scoring, so he must have scored in the other game.
That's right.
I think Lineker scored in the game that we were at. I think Brian Dean was around at that time. Was he one of the...
Brian Dean, yeah, it was his first cap.
Yeah. I remember there was like Jeff Thomas, crikey. Because I'd gone expecting to see, all these great World Cup semi-finalists, and there was like no Gaza, there was Lineker there, and that was kind of about it,
Yeah. Well, I guess Gaza was
he was injured, just got injured in the cup final, literally like the month before. Because I remember watching the cup final at sort of midnight over there. Yeah, I think I know Dennis Wise was playing. Was Earl Barrett around?
It was Earl Barrett's first cap. Was this game?
Yeah.
There's one more.
Jeff Thomas.
Jeff Thomas played, but there was one other debutant. It was, in fact, his only cap that he ever received.
Correct. Go on.
Mark Walters.
Walters. Right. I thought you were going to say Salako, because I'm sure he was sort of around that time as well.
He was a sub that day. And he actually played in the second game that was played in Wellington.
Right.
But by all accounts, this game that you went to wasn't the most exciting, was it?
It wasn't. It was a drab 0-0. The one good thing that watching sports in New Zealand have is the stadiums. I don't think Eden Park has now, but certainly this athletic stadium has big grassy banks, and you've seen these at cricket in Australia and stuff like that. And that's quite a big thing. Everyone goes and takes a picnic basket and loads up with tins of beer and stuff like that. So we were kind of behind one of the goals on this grassy bank on a picnic blanket, drinking marga most of the game, basically in the sunshine.
Nice.
It was a brilliant way of watching. But and look, this has been like England. How many times have we said this over the years? The game spoils a good weekend or a good trip kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you said there was it a drab 0-0? You said.
Well, no, I remember we scored literally right at the death.
I was going to say you must have had too much drink on that bank if you'd forgotten.
I think if I remember, we hit the bar as well,
right.
Just before the end, and I can't remember who hit the bar.
And Salako's in there. Oh, they hit the bar.
I'm thinking we're really going to draw 0-0, and of course I was going to get a load of grief at work the following day on the Kiwis. I think was it Lineker that scored? I think Lineker got the win, didn't he? Yeah.
Gary Lineker got the goal in the last minute. Yes, yeah.
Plenty of players forward here. There's the cross, and it's in! Lineker. Gary Lineker has scored for England in what I make the 48th minute of the second half. Well, would you believe it? It all seemed lost, and England suddenly broke clear on the right-hand side, and the captain scores his 41st international goal. So it's New Zealand 0, England 1 in Auckland. What was a fairly shabby England performance in parts, ending on a high note when Gary Lineker scored in the 3rd minute of stoppage time.
So you were Auckland based then for that, and there was the second game that it's very strange. We wouldn't have this in this day and age now, would we? Playing 2 games consecutively in the space of what? 4
and I was looking
days.
At always getting down to Wellington. It only looks like that far on the map, doesn't it? But it's like a full 24-hour drive or something.
Yeah, having done that myself, yes.
Didn't have the funds either, but it was like, and I remember kind of at the time with my missus saying, I bet we could get down there. But so no, I missed that one. But I remember, as I say, I think was ours the game we were playing in the red away strip. I remember they swapped the kits, or it was the other way around. Ours was in white, and and they played in 2 different kits for each of the games.
You are right. You're right. It was the red away kit that they played in. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, and because I remember I used to love the Italia 90 kit, and I think they still had the Italia 90 kit at the time.
Yeah, that's right. No, you're right, because I think they then kept it up to Euro 92, didn't they?
Yeah.
I remember Gary Lineker coming off and throwing his captain's armband down and still wearing the 90 shirt, I think. Yeah. I mean, two pretty drab results against New Zealand, wasn't it?
Yeah. They were kind of. I think they were played in the pre-season, weren't they? Was it like July or?
No, it was early June, so it would have been shortly after the season finished back here. Yeah.
So all the players presumably just wanted to get on their holidays, I imagine.
Well, they'd been to Australia before, played a game in Australia, played the 2 games in New Zealand, and then went via Malaysia on the way home, which is where Gary Lineker scored all 4 goals.
Okay, right.
Yeah. But, I mean, do you remember what the reaction was like in New Zealand after the game? Were they happy to have had England there?
Yeah, there was a lot of stick. As I say, the expats sort of stuck together, and the Kiwis were giving us a lot of stick. You know, they're sport mad. The Kiwis are, obviously, and you know, they'd want to destroy you at a game of tiddlywinks kind of thing. And so, even though it was a 1-0, was the other one 2-0?
Yes,
3-0, I think. Yeah, they weren't letting us off the hook. You should be beating us like 8 and 9-0 and stuff like that. And to be fair, if I remember rightly, I think New Zealand played well, because I don't think they were even full-time professionals. I think they were sort of, a lot of them were part-time.
Yeah, semi-pro players. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So you came back from New Zealand then?
Yeah, I came back about a year after that. To be fair, we had a couple of years out there in the end. And, it's a good time, good place, I have to say. Really good place. Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah,
I haven't been back, and I always would like to get back at some point.
No, I haven't been myself. Yes, very nice place. Very enjoyable. I mean, let's bring it right up to date. Obviously, we're not going to England games at the moment, which is a bit of incredible shame. But how do you see things at the moment?
The team-wise, or sort of following England-wise? I mean, the team-wise, I have to say, I'm still full of optimism, and that sounds a really stupid thing to say after the Iceland and Denmark games. I honestly think Gareth just got the squad wrong. He just, as soon as you saw there was no left back in the squad, there were a few things that were just a bit disjointed, and I think all best you can say is, look, take 4 points. Let's move on, and hopefully we'll win the home games and we'll get to the Nations League again. But I think there's some great young players still coming through, and I think the future's pretty rosy for us. In my lifetime, we will win a major tournament. We will at some point. A lot of averages say we've got to, right?
Yeah, no, I can see the positivity there.
Yeah, no. So no, I like Gareth. I think he's doing a good job from what he inherited. To be honest, I think my ultimate low point of following England all these years was Sam Allardyce being put in charge of a national team, and I was like, really, is this what we've come to? And I remember, I think it was Slovakia. I remember being out in Bratislava, and actually, opinion was quite divided between the guys I go with. Some were like, "Oh no, it'll be a great appointment," and other people, we ended up with Mike Bassett, football manager kind of thing.
That was another late goal that day, wasn't it?
Got a scruffy Lallana. He sort of off the back of his knee or something, wasn't it? I can't remember. But no, following England, it's great. We've all got the stories to tell. We've kind of a loose collection, bunch of brothers kind of thing, who we come together for England away. You meet some lifelong friends. You meet tremendous people. See cities and countries that you'd never go to. You'd only dream of ever going to, and some turn out to be absolute gems, and real treasured life moments for me, to be honest. And Volgograd or Minsk on a Tuesday night, you name it. It's not a cheap hobby, but it's a fantastic hobby, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's one that pretty much you've described why we miss it all at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. I think just before we started recording, I was saying to you, me and the guys, we're trying to decide whether we're still going to go across to Brussels, and even if clearly the match is going to be behind closed doors, but kind of feel like we need our fix this year.
Yeah, go over there for a strawberry beer and watch the game in a bar. Yeah,
exactly. Go on, get the old Eurostar, and let's see how that pans out.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I've got a ticket for the Eurostar as well. I may well see you on there.
Sounds great,
David. Let's maybe talk again at some stage. Maybe you can tell us about some previous journeys that you've been on.
Love to. Yeah. I'll see if we can get a few of the other guys roped into it as well. And because when you end up sparking off one another, one person remembers that thing that happened in wherever, and then it's yeah. So yeah, I'd love to.
Mate, let's do it. Five days later, New Zealand were the opposition again, but this time in the capital, Wellington. Now, you may know that Wellington is often referred to as Windy Wellington, simply because of its location at the foot of the North Island, situated on the Cook Strait. And on the day of this game, the wind was well in attendance, as John Motson mentions.
Graham Taylor and Laurie McMenemy both well wrapped up against this wind.
Now, I'm a sucker for research, so I've managed to buy the programme for these games from eBay, and it was played at a ground that is no longer there in the guise that it was back in 1991. And it appears that they only produced one programme to be sold at both venues, where it states that the fixtures were 2 years in the planning. And Graham Taylor mentions, I'm looking forward to playing 4 tour international matches in Australia and New Zealand and Malaysia. And I know that the international football education of my players, whether they are established stars or relatively new to the England scene, will be furthered as a result. Taylor made 5 changes to the starting lineup that played in Auckland. He made Stuart Pearce captain for the first time. In fact, I seem to remember some highlights from Grandstand at the time. I'm showing my age now. I seem to remember my granddad being really proud as a Sheffield Wednesday fan that David Hurst had scored. So that first game between the two sides, as we mentioned, with Dave Ward, was a game that saw debuts given to Earl Barrett, Mark Waters and Brian Deane. This time, it was Gary Charles who earned his first cap. And watching the highlights on YouTube, there seems to be a decent amount of English support. Highly likely to be expats, but they could be heard singing and chanting in the footage. There's also a Bolton Union Jack flag behind one of the goals. And the goals in this game came from captain Stuart Pearce and, as I mentioned, David Hurst. Now, we've spoken with a fan who was there. Now, let's talk to someone who played in both games.
This is McGarry for New Zealand. It's a good run. He's gone between Thomas and Pearce there, Michael McGarry. In fact, he had to take them all on because no other New Zealand player was up in support. They were all standing back admiring it, I think.
I'd like to welcome to the Three Lions podcast, former New Zealand international, and in fact, someone who played in both of these games versus England. Please welcome Mike McGarry. Hello, Mike.
Yeah, g'day. Great to be here. Yeah, bringing back some pretty fond memories of quite a long time ago, obviously nearly 30 years. So thanks very much for inviting me on.
No, you're very welcome. Well, first of all, whereabouts are you in New Zealand?
We're in Dunedin, which is pretty much down the south of the South Island. We're just coming into a bit of slightly better weather, so summer for us coming up soon. So, and unfortunately for you guys, going the other way. Yeah.
Winter's or autumn's just starting to set in. Getting the woolly jumpers on now, and I may just find some trousers rather than the shorts at some stage.
Yeah, it reminds me actually of the day that we played England and Wellington, which was a typical sort of wet and windy day. It wasn't one of the better sort of days weather-wise, but it was fantastic for us in terms of getting another game against England after losing the first one in Auckland 1-0.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's start with that first game, because you played in both of them, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, we played at Mount Smart in Auckland the first match. After, for us, really just having 3 or 4 days as a get-together before the big game, and to play England in our centennial matches was pretty impressive, really, for us. We didn't get many. I think it was the first time actually that New Zealand had played a full England squad, so it was pretty exciting for us.
So you, if I'm right in saying, were you semi-professional at the time?
Yeah, we did. We played. Most of our players were semi-professional. I went back to my job as a secondary school teacher the week after we played England. So yeah, big difference for us compared to the England players. Because
you're still involved in school work, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm still a secondary school teacher. Yeah, we did play semi-professional football here, and we did have some fully professional players in our squad, but not many, not like the squad that England and New Zealand are putting together, hopefully to play England in November this year.
Yes, well, we'll talk briefly about that as we go along. But back in 91, when the fixture was announced, what did you think? I mean, you must have seen the England team at maybe Italia 90. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a bit of a dream come true for us, really. I mean, it was our centennial over here, and I guess England did us a huge favour by the full squad to play us in these 2 games. So for us, it was it was something we'd been looking forward to. Once we heard that the games were happening, we were looking forward to getting out there on the same pitch as some of those household names that, your Gary Linekers, who, was a bit of a superstar at that stage, and David Platt. So we were really looking forward to it.
So that first game, as you mentioned, was at Mount Smart in Auckland. What do you remember about that day?
Oh, we only had probably 2. I think we had 3 or 4 days leading into it where we got together as a squad, and really just set out, a style of play that we thought would give us a good, possibly a good chance to get a result. We knew it was, a very good England side that was coming across, but it was the off season. So we thought if we played well, we might have an opportunity to get a result in the game. So that was what we were focused on. Plus, we're pretty excited to actually get out there. It's going to be good.
I mean, you held your own for 94 minutes, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we thought we actually had done it. And then I think it was in the 2nd or 3rd minute of injury time at the end of the match, Gary Lineker did what Gary Lineker does, and he got an opportunity to score. And unfortunately for us, he took the half chance and we went down 1-0. So, despite losing, we'd given a pretty good account of ourselves in the game, and we were pretty proud of the way that we'd gone.
Yeah. So then you had a quick turnaround, and you just went down the country, went down to Wellington. As you say, it's can be a bit windy there at times, can't it?
Yeah, it's the old athletic park, which doesn't exist anymore. But it was a pretty wet and wild day, so it wasn't quite the conditions that we wanted to play the second match in. But we were still, after that first result, we were looking forward to having another crack at a Lineker-less England side. He'd headed off on, I think Spurs had some tour happening, pre-season tour happening somewhere else, so he headed off after the first match. Unfortunately, he should have headed off before the first one, and we would have got the draw, but no, he headed off, so we were really looking forward to getting into it in that second match too.
Yeah, so he was replaced by the likes of Brian Deane and Ian Wright, and David Hurst as well.
Yeah.
But this was a game that you must dream about this game, or a very special moment in it.
Yeah, it was. We, I'd had Stuart Pearce. He was marking me, but I think I spent most of the time marking him in the first game in Auckland. So, yeah, to have another crack at those guys and maybe get a result, and then and the nearly goal came up. So it was a bit unfortunate. If I hadn't hit it quite so well, it might have actually gone in at the far post. But Des Walker, who was pretty quick, managed to get back after I'd gone around the keeper. So, yeah, disappointed at not scoring, but yeah, it's just one of those moments in your career that
Gary Charles. Oh, what a mistake he's made there. It's Michael McGarry for New Zealand. Surely he'll score. Well, was it behind the line? It was out by Des Walker. And McGarry fails with perhaps New Zealand's best chance, courtesy really of Gary Charles, who will be relieved that his Forest colleague got him out of jail there.
I didn't strike the ball quite so well. I went round the keeper, went round wood, and hit it near post. I think if I'd mishit it and gone far post, it would have been a goal in the end. So, but one of those things, look at, I'm not quite sure why the fullback, how he didn't see me in the position that I was in. But, I was grateful he gave me the ball. And, bugger. One of those things.
Well,
it didn't quite work out.
Well, I mean, we're talking online here, and we've both got the video going. You're wearing the shirt that you played in that day, aren't you?
Yeah, it's a wee bit tighter than it was 30 years ago. But it's we played in Auckland. We played in our white strips. In England, we're in basically this colour here that I've got on, and then we swapped round in Wellington. So maybe that's why the defender he might have had a wee lapse there and thought he was in the other colour. But no, it was just one of those moments that you sort of dream about, and then it just didn't quite come off.
Yeah. So you didn't swap your shirts with anyone?
Yeah, I've got Stuart Pearce's white and this colour, the chain strip, and I've also got David Platt's shirt as well. So yeah, so I managed to. Not quite sure why I ended up with the extra one, but I think I swapped Stuart Pearce's one for someone else's. So so I've got David Platt's shirt. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, too right. I mean, did Stuart Pearce live up to his psycho nickname?
Didn't have much to do with him. We did have after the Auckland game. Though, it was quite interesting. We sort of we were heading out for a beer after the game because it was a whole week before we played our next one, and we're waiting in the minibus downstairs at the hotel. We were in the same hotel as the England guys, and three fellas come out of the waiting room and said, "Can we get a ride with you guys?" And we said, "Oh, yeah, okay." So that was. We haven't got any seats, so you'd have to sit on the floor in the minibus. And that was Gary Lineker, I think it was Dennis Wise, and Mark Wright.
No,
so they were the three guys. They headed into town with us and had a few beers. Well, they were great. We had a lot of fun. They were good. They were pretty complimentary about how we'd gone, and they were good blokes. Yeah.
Okay, so they didn't express any sort of... I don't know how to put it. I mean, because it would have been the end of the English season, and it's a hell of a long way to travel. They played Australia and obviously 2 games against yourself. Did they say anything about what they felt about travelling?
I think because it was our centennial, that's the reason that they came all that way. And look, it was certainly their off season. I don't think they were going absolutely hard out. In all the games, but certainly wouldn't have wanted to lose to us either. So, it was one of those things, and for them to come a long, long way, and it is a long way to play those 2 matches. It was pretty impressive actually. So, and then if the All Whites play this time round, that's the 3rd time only that New Zealand have played England in full international. So, pretty exciting time coming up.
Yeah, so what do you think about this game against England at Wembley? What will it mean to the players who do play for it are selected?
Well, it's a completely different setup in New Zealand now. I mean, I played 80-odd games for New Zealand over the course of years, and the team just doesn't get together very often now because they're all full professionals all over the world playing their trade. So to get a squad together is quite difficult, so to get a game against England would have to be the highlight of many of the players that are playing. It would be the highlight of their career, as it was for me, 30 years ago. So they'll be really looking forward to it. Let's just hope that fingers crossed that everything works out well and they can actually get out on the park and play. And I think again, they'll give a good account of themselves.
Yeah, well, it'd be really nice if a crowd of some size could attend.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, I mean, it's quite strange, isn't it, watching football at the moment with no spectators, and yes, they can have the background noise on, but it's not the same. And I'm sure it's not the same for the players either. There's nothing like the atmosphere of having a big crowd there watching you playing, and the banter that you hear from the side is pretty important to the players too, and the atmosphere. So, yeah, let's hope, cross fingers that things come right.
Yeah. And I'm right in saying that football runs in your family. Is it your son plays in Belgium?
He was in Holland. He was at Willem II. He got his first cap for New Zealand last year. So he's a footballer. And so he's
capped by the New Zealand side. Was there a chance? Do you think he could make the Wembley game?
Just depends. I think it depends on whether or not they go with a whole European-based side or whatever. So, yeah, look, it's in the lap of the gods. There's a lot of strength and depth in New Zealand football now, more so than there has been probably ever. So, look, we'll just wait and see what happens there, and who knows.
Well, no, I wish you all the best to say. As the McGarry family, that'd be a great thing to put those shirts side to side. Yeah.
These days they like playing in the tight shirts, but we didn't back in those days. They were a bit more. There was a bit more space to move in. So, yeah. So, who knows?
Well, I wish you all the luck. And yes, Mike McGarry, thank you very much for taking the time. I know there's obviously the time difference between England and New Zealand. So thank you very much for joining us and just reminiscing about those games 30 years ago.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much for ringing. Good on you. Thanks.
Lovely. Bye-bye. Thank you to Mike there for his time. I really enjoyed that. Perhaps I was being a little hasty in implying that the games weren't as worthwhile. Clearly, for the New Zealand players, as Mike alluded to, it was an amazing moment in time. And I'm sure if I was to ask the England players who went, I'm sure they'd have good things to say about it too. So perhaps my thoughts about the forthcoming game, having not so much value, are a little misplaced. Because the Kiwis who experience Wembley will have memories to tell their children, grandchildren in years to come. And you never know, perhaps it'll be a moment in time for a particular England player. First goal, first game, every England cap matters. And of course, the game is on Thursday the 12th of November, and it'll be England's 1007th international. Thank you as always for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've certainly enjoyed speaking with both Dave and Mike. Please do tell your friends about the podcast. And if you happen to be on the likes of iTunes, please do give it a review. Would be much appreciated. And you can get in touch on various social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Just search 3 Lions Podcast. Or you can email 3lionspodcast@gmail.com. My name's Russell Osborne, and I hope you can join me for some future episodes about our England team. Cheers.